In this video, I'm going to recreate some of the elements of this dashboard you see before you on a Mac. So it is in response really to a number of students who have suggested that they're running into a few problems using a Mac. And indeed, there are some differences between the way Mac Excel operates to Windows Excel, and some of those differences become apparent when you're playing around with pivot tables and pivot charts. So, without further ado, I shall get started. I am traditionally a Windows user, so if I occasionally flounder, forgive me. This is my partner's MacBook Air, and it's pink. All right. So here we go. So what I'm going to do today, and I'll break it down into a couple of videos so it makes it bite sized. I'm not going to create this dashboard in its entirety because that takes too long. It's a lot of finessing and messing around to get it like this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tackle the tricky bits, the important tricky bits. So to that end, I'm going to create this time series graph here of revenue, the map, the map of revenue as well, or sales, shall we call it, not revenue. I'll do one of these donuts and this satisfaction graph or something like it. Anyway, so you'll and obviously I'll do these slices along the way. So, but I'm not, as I say, I'm just gonna create the constituent elements, and hopefully it should clear up a few issues that you may have. All right, so let's get rid of this. No, how do we do this? Oh yes, I have to do that. Right, there we go. Let's get rid of you. All right, and then where is the data? Here's the data. All right, here's the blank data. I've already turned this into a table. If you don't know what I'm talking about or how to do that, don't worry. It's not critical, but look, ask your tutor if it's me or anybody else what I meant by that. Okay, so here's the raw data. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create two extra tabs, two extra sheets. One I'm going to say pivots. I'm going to call it pivots, and I'm going to call the other one dashboard. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use pivots as our sort of holding area where we create and design. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. We're going to, I'll get that out of the way. See, this is what, why is that? Why is that there, Mac people? Go away. All right. So what we're going to do is, and this is where I'm going to sort of build up our pivot tables and charts and play around with them before moving them to our dashboard area, which is here, which I know it looks exactly the same. And obviously if you want to create a nice dashboard, you'll give it a nice color and have nice sections in it and so on and so forth. However, let's go back to here. So data, let's insert the pivot table. So I'm going to insert the pivot table like so. I'm going to create it in an existing worksheet because I've created our pivot table here, and I'm going to just start it at A1 and then click OK. All right, go away. So now what did I say? I said I was going to do that time series revenue chart, so I'm going to do that. So that has dates on it. So here's our pivot table, and I'll make things bigger if I feel they're looking too small. So the first thing to do is we click on date. So if I click on date, that's the row of the pivot table that we want. Now, if I do that, if I just click on that? Oddly enough, it just creates this date in the value. We don't want that. That's not what we want. We want it in rows, okay? So it might be worth going forward and I'm just going to drag that away, so it's gone. It might be worth, to be on the safe side, just to drag date into rows like so. All right. So when I do it that way, you'll see that it breaks it down. It's clever enough to break it down into years, quarters, and the date. So this is what we want. This is what we want. So drag that into there. So I think that's just a safe bet when you're using a Mac and probably when you're using Windows as well. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. So there's the dates. Now there's the years. So what we can do is you can see the little pluses we can add. We can make them bigger if we want to. So we've broken it down into quarters, which is what I'm interested in for this example. You can, if you want, go further and break it down into actual months as well, but we'll not do that. We'll keep it simple. Okay. So what do we want to measure? We want to measure revenue. So I'm gonna move to here, click on revenue. I mean, I'm going to drag it down, but I know that if I do click on it, in this case, it will go to values, which is what we want. But if you want to keep it safe, there we go, revenue. There's the sum of revenue. We've got the table data that we need. Okay, so we're going to do that time series graph. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to go pivot table analyze. It's already highlighted, looking good. So what I'm going to do is pivot chart. Okay, so here's the pivot chart. I click on it. Bang. Now in Windows, what you get is a list of different chart types that you can use. In Mac, you don't do that for some odd reason. What you need to do is just, the chart is selected, so make sure you've selected the chart. All you do is go to design, then go to change chart type. Then there you go, you've got a list of different line graphs that you want. So this is what I want. I want a line graph. Beautiful. You could choose one of those area graphs if you want to. And then you can play around. I'm going to choose one of these. There we go. I like that. That's nice. You could you can have all of these styles above. You can play around with them. They're very nice. So that's great. Now another thing that's different in Windows is that they have these different sort of field buttons on. Mac people don't need to worry about that. They don't appear. What I do want to do is I want to get rid of the legend here, and I want to get rid of this title. In Windows, there's a little plus mark there. It's not in Mac. You just go here. So I'm here at the left-hand corner, click, and then I can play around with the different elements: axes, axis titles, chart titles. This is where I want to remove, see none, and it disappears. And the legend, I want to get rid of the legend as well. So I click there again, look for legend, and it disappears. So we've got, there's my basic chart, and yeah, that's fine. That's fine for me. I'm actually going to now copy that, copy, and then put it on my dashboard. All right, so I'm going to put it on my dashboard once I've worked out how to do that in Macworld. There we go. So there it is. So fine. Oh, this is all beautiful. We've got our first dashboard. We haven't got any slicers yet. Why not? Let's bring some slicers into the equation. How do we do that? Pivot chart analyze. Click on this. Insert slicers. Beautiful. Right. So we'll do a few. We'll do date. No, we won't do date. We'll do years. Let's do years. Let's then do customer acquisition type, state, and product. So we've got 4 slicers there. And go away, stop doing that. So is there anything else we want? Quarters, return, delete, no, I think we're all right. I think that's all I need there. Those 4 slicers. Click OK. So they appear there, and I can, if I want to, I can select all of them, and then I can change the color if I want to, so on and so forth. Beautiful. Okay, so there's my slicers. It's got these weird extra. This is a slicer for year. You see, obviously that has a fairly radical effect on our graph. So there's a slicer for year. I want to get rid of these extraneous buttons for data which doesn't exist. I'm just going to right click on there, and I'm going to right click on there again so we can see slicer settings there. And then I'm just going to, when this comes up, hide items with no data. and then it's gone. Forgive me if I'm going quickly. I have a habit of dragging these videos on too long. You can pause and rewind and fast forward. So I'm just going to, for the time being, I'm just going to move these slicers around, put them at the bottom here. There we go. For this one, the slicer's quite tall there. That's about the right size. This is quite tall. What I want to do is I just want to spread them out so they're in different columns. Maybe it's 3 columns for state. If I click on that, all I do is, you can see I've selected the slicer. Just increase the column size there. Okay. And then just make that a little bit bigger. Okay. Okay, and then years looks fine to me. Product, maybe break that down into a number of columns as well. Maybe 3 columns. There we go. Okay. Great. So there we have it. We've created, well, it's not really a dashboard. It's a dashboard with one image on it. So there we go. That's the first step. So we highlighted a couple of differences between Windows and Mac, but there we have it. And I know that it looks very small, but you can just, I'm just playing with the slicers. I can increase the size if I want to. I can clear the selections just by clicking on these buttons here. We can have multiple selections as well. See that button there? If I want to, product 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right. One thing to notice is that, so in this stage, I've cleared everything. So we're looking at all of the data. And if you look at the pivot, see there's all the numbers there. Be mindful that these slicers actually filter all the way back through to your pivots. These slicers are linked to this chart, this pivot chart, this chart, pivot chart is linked to your pivot table that you created there. So you'll see there that, for example, sum of revenue is 344 blah, 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 for 2017. I'll affect that. If I change this, I'm filtering now just on ads, ad customer acquisitions. If I go back to pivots, see, it's changed. It's different. So if you're seeing different numbers there, it's probably just because you've got one of these filters set up. All right. So there we go. That's the first step. I feel I should stop the video there. Then the next video, I'm going to add in the map. And there's a few interesting complications with that as well. But let's stop this, and I'll see you in the next video.